The LGBTQ community has only very recently been given the same rights and protections as everybody else. Ever since the 1950s, LGBTQ activists have made constant efforts to get equal rights and protections under the law, but those efforts can be undone very quickly. Protecting our fellow citizens is one of the basic foundations of any democracy, and ensuring that LGBTQ citizens can get fair treatment is one way of keeping the rights of everybody else. First, let's discuss some of the common arguments against LGBTQ rights, then some statistics regarding LGBTQ rights and their effects, and finally, why protecting LGBTQ rights protects the rights of everybody else. First and foremost, let's discuss some of the common rebuttals against LGBTQ rights. For various reasons, often religious in nature, some people oppose LGBTQ rights. One of the most common Bible verses listed as a rationale for this is Leviticus 18:22, which, in the King James Bible, states that a same-sex relationship is considered abomination. However, a clergyman in training at SMAU stated in an essay that, according to Christian law, this is not actually as harshly punished as people believe, being something closer to a misdemeanor than the death penalty. This essay also brings up the fact that the rest of Leviticus is often ignored. These beliefs also do not take into account that the First Amendment to the U.S. Constitution and the Treaty of Tripoli state the U.S. is a secular nation that is not governed by religious law. Many people also believe that LGBTQ people tend to be more likely to have mental illness. This is a belief that is somewhat rooted in reality, as mental health issues such as depression or anxiety can run rampant among members of the LGBTQ community. However, as a study done on LGBTQ people living in crisis shelters revealed, one of the leading causes for poor mental health within the LGBTQ community is due to the discrimination many face. Now that we've seen some of the arguments against the LGBTQ community, let's discuss why their rights are important from a statistical standpoint. LGBTQ rights have many justifications based solely on statistics. The LGBTQ population is a comparatively small one, but many estimates, such as the one provided by the Williams Institute, put the percentage at around 10% of the world population. Statistically, this means that somewhere around 32 million people in America are part of the LGBTQ community. The idea that 32 million people can have their rights taken or ignored by other people or the government is a concept directly from a dystopian novel and is completely unacceptable. In addition, it has been shown by studies, such as the one mentioned earlier, that the LGBTQ suicide rate decreases dramatically when discrimination and prejudice is not a factor in life. Since this rate is higher than the rate for cisgender or heterosexual people, granting additional protections to LGBTQ people would lower it further. Now that we've learned about the statistical reasoning for protecting the LGBTQ rights, let's look at how protecting and upholding these rights helps the US as a whole. In many cases throughout history, those who attempt to take rights from the people begin with one smaller group and then expand to attack many other people's rights. In Nazi Germany, the main group to lose rights and be attacked were the Jews. According to the US Holocaust Museum, the Jews and political enemies of the Nazi Party were the first two groups to have their rights attacked. As history shows, the groups the Nazis attacked were not limited to the Jews or their political foes, and many other groups found themselves under attack by Hitler and the SS. In 1996, the LGBTQ community faced one of its largest setbacks in the form of the Defense of Marriage Act. This act prevented same-sex couples from being recognized federally from the federal government, and allowed individual states to ban same-sex marriage. Although it did not progress any further than this, and eventually would end up being ruled as unconstitutional by the Supreme Court, it set a very worrying precedent that the rights of the people to do basic things such as get their marriage recognized were potentially subject to being removed. Furthermore, as Carlos Ball stated in his book, there is still much work to do to solidify LGBTQ rights. If they were to be harmed, it stands to reason that the exact same thing could happen to everybody in America. This has been a speech about the importance of LGBTQ rights. The LGBTQ community's rights are important and need to be protected. Many of the arguments presented against the LGBTQ community have significant issues present within them, and protecting the LGBTQ community has quantifiable benefits. It also helps keep the American democracy alive and keeps the rest of our rights alive. The LGBTQ community's rights are very important for everybody, but they still very much require protections. Knowing just how important our rights are you willing to help keep them intact by using your vote?